Hello everyone and welcome back to You Need This Book in Your Life, the weekly book review show where the host lightens the subject matter with obligatory self-deprecation at the start of each episode. And this week I'm going to be talking about a book called Stalingrad by Anthony Beevor, noted British historian. It's a little bit different from the usual things that I discuss. As you may have seen, I am not a big military history buff. I'm not the kind of person who can talk to you about the caliber of guns and tank formations and all of that kind of boys' own stuff. I was more drawn to this book because when I was reading a lot of the Holocaust memoirs, you know, sort of Elie Wiesel and Primo Levi and Eva Moses Kor, I read those, and the arrival of the Red Army at Auschwitz always has, at the end of books that are as tough and as traumatizing and as harrowing as that, when the Red Army appear and liberate the camp, you get this, it's like the feeling of the cavalry having arrived in a cowboy film but on steroids, these kind of Avenging Angels. And I think that sort of motif still sort of persists today, even though, as we will be going into over the course of the discussion, arguably it shouldn't quite. Because if you come to the table thinking a book about Stalingrad is going to be this sort of grand good versus evil battle, or if you think it's going to be a sweeping story of heroism, then you are dead wrong, unfortunately. There are numerous threads woven together quite expertly by Anthony Beevor, but one of the most powerful ones is this titanic battle in which the troops are kind of proxies for the Hitler versus Stalin, and you have this paranoid thug in the Kremlin in Stalin, and you have this sort of gangster, opportunist, racist in Hitler. Neither of those men are anywhere, that they're irredeemable essentially by history. You're talking about a clash of evil versus evil, with rank and file soldiers sort of carrying out the grudge match between these two historical tyrants, and the sheer scale of it is incredible. In the opening stages of the book, you have this feeling when the German army is marching into Russia that the horizon just won't stop coming. It's this endless march into the Russian steppe, this vast country where the size of it itself is terrifying. You know, there's the Wehrmacht have taken so much land that they can't help be nervous about what they've taken on in terms of, when do we stop? When does this country keep coming? That in itself is terrifying to them. And on that huge canvas is this sort of drama that takes place, and Anthony Beevor welds together accounts of individual soldiers and their letters home and what life was like for them. He tells you about the sights and the sounds and the smells in field hospitals full of dying men. He talks about the appalling impact of the Russian winter on the bodies of the men involved. It goes from there all the way up to court intrigue. You have the sort of power dynamics at the Wolfschanze, and you have sort of intrigue at the Kremlin, and all the way up and all the way down, it's backed up by statistics and research and facts. The book was originally written in 1998, and after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1989, you have this brief window of historical opportunity where the Russian archives were available to foreign researchers, and Anthony Beevor kind of hit this gold mine of previously protected material, access to which has since slammed shut. And you can only be grateful that this book, which is so powerful, has come out of it, so we can all understand what Stalingrad was actually about. Now, the big takeaway from this book for me, when you're going across this whole arc of a battle from the invasion all the way through to digging in and the Russian winter setting in and all of the sort of diesel fuel freezing in the tanks and frostbite and starvation rations, when you've got all of that sort of happening, the key takeaway for me remains that autocrats aren't on your side. On the Red Army side, you have the workers' and peasants' army, these sort of lionized heroes of the Great Patriotic War who have NKVD men behind them. So you have poor old Ivan, who's there sort of with his rifle trying to pick off the invaders, trying to fight for the motherland, but ultimately he's got the NKVD behind him who will shoot him if he turns back. You know, the cruelty that the Soviet regime visited upon its own men, they were treated in a way which... And there's this argument that Beevor makes that Soviet culture was so materialistic that men are just seen as another material to be used in pursuit of the goals of the Soviet Union. So equipment is injured, man is injured, tank is broken. It really doesn't seem to matter. Just sort of wave after wave after wave of Russian boys and men are herded towards the Germans. It's really challenging to read, but equally on the flip side, after the battle turns and you have the German Wehrmacht, the Sixth Army, they are encircled by the Russians. The Russians have gone and built an incredible amount of tanks and brought them all to the front and encircled the Sixth Army. So they're there in the freezing Russian winter without sort of recourse to their own supply lines, without medicine, with limited means of escape. And rather than do what was necessary in order to protect the flower of German youth, if you will, these young lads and men who've done everything right in terms of what the regime expected of them, which is to join the military and fight for the Third Reich. They have committed to everything that Nazi ideology said they should have done, and then Nazi ideology turns around and ignores them and leaves them to die out there and refuses to acknowledge that they are encircled and they are doomed. And it's the same. You see it in the episodes. The episode at the final in Downfall, the film which is memed so often. You see this, Goebbels says that the Germans' throats are being cut. He doesn't care about his own people. Now, on both sides of the authoritarian coin, whether it's communist Russia or whether it's Nazi Germany, neither side really cares about the fundamental well-being or even the lives of the people fighting for it. And that's the greatest tragedy that Beevor manages to get across in this fantastic book. It's an epic, kind of operatic tragedy. It's so powerful to read that when you come into the epilogue and there are the fates of individual officers who Beevor talks about well into the 1970s, it's not just a question of 1945 comes and everything's happy. It's sort of down the decades, this horrible tragedy is still being visited on individuals, and it's really quite affecting, which is why I wanted to talk about it. And again, the takeaway is autocrats are never on your side no matter what you do. So yes, do you need this book in your life? I would say yes. I don't normally recommend military history, as I've said, but the reason I'm doing this is because the takeaway from it is so powerful that I just have to discuss it. It's a fantastic book. The reading as well, the audio book by Peter Noble. If you ever get a chance, if you've got an Audible subscription or any other audio book subscription, get hold of the copy that Peter Noble has read, because he has this Richard Burton quality to his voice which imbues this already very powerful story with even more dramatic tension just in everything he does. Even his pronunciations make the hairs on the back of your neck stand to attention. It's incredible. Yes, you need it in your life. Learn, enjoy. It's a wonderful book. As always, I will leave a link to purchase it in the comments on this article, video, whatever. We've known each other long enough by now. And again, if you could like, share, subscribe, because I need the exposure, that would be fantastic. And continuing my dark theme at the moment, next week I am going to be discussing the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn, whereafter I will probably take a break and go for a little bit lighter material, but stick around for next week because I'm going to be talking about one of the most powerful books ever written. So hope to see you then next week, Saturday, 8 PM. Cheers everyone. Bye.